Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Wayne Canning. Today's opportunity is going to be working on my hatch. Ever since we bought this boat about a year ago, the hatch has been really hard to slide open and closed. I mean, it's doable, but it's just kind of a nuisance, and it jams up, and Teresa really has a hard time with it. So I figured it was time to go ahead and actually fix this thing. Let's first look at what we got going here. Okay, as you can see, the hatch is really very tight, lays flat on there. I imagine at one time maybe it rode on the edge, but now you've got a lot of surface area there for that to slide back and forth on. And the hatch, because of that, is just really hard to move. So I thought about a lot of different ways to fix this, but it occurred to me that, a hatch that's going to roll really nicely and smoothly is going to roll on ball bearings. Well, putting in ball bearings seemed like it was going to be a pretty big project. But the more I got to thinking about it, the more this made sense, and the more I thought I could do this relatively easily. So what I did is I bought some tiny little ball bearings, this little plastic bag I got off of eBay, and they are plastic ball bearings so they won't corrode. I got these on eBay for about 12 bucks including shipping, so really not bad. What I'm going to do is on the underside of the hatch, I'm going to drill a series of small holes that the little ball bearing will fit into it. It's just going to be a very shallow hole so that most of the ball bearing goes in, but not all of it. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of grease in there, and hopefully the grease will hold the ball bearing in long enough for me to get the hatch set down. I'm really not worried about them falling out once the hatch is down, because the weight of the hatch is going to hold it, and it doesn't lift up high enough for the bearings to come off. So we're going to give this a try. Hopefully it'll work. It's a relatively simple project. All I have to do is drill 12 holes down each side of the hatch, stick in the ball bearings, and hopefully we will have a nice smooth sliding hatch. Alright, next I got to prep the hatch for the little ball bearings. Now I'm not going to have any retainer to be able to hold these things in like you would with a regular ball bearing, so this is kind of crude boat work. So what I'm going to do is just drill a very shallow hole in the underside of the hatch in the plastic, and this will allow the ball bearing to sit in there. These are 6mm ball bearings, which are roughly 1/4 of an inch, so I can drill a 1/4 of an inch hole, and I want some of the bearings sticking out, so I'm going to drill the hole about 1/8 inch deep. Now it's a little bit of a tricky part on this, because I want all the holes to be consistent on the depth. I don't want to have one hole 1/8 inch and one just a little bit deeper and then one a little bit shallow. Otherwise the bearings are not going to ride smoothly on the metal. So they all need to be about the same thickness. Once I get the holes drilled, I'm going to put a little bit of grease in each hole and stick the ball bearing in there, and that grease should hold the bearing in there long enough for me to get the hatch down. Sounds good in theory. We'll see how that really works later, but I'm pretty confident that'll work pretty good. These bearings seem to want to stick in those holes reasonably well, and I think just the suction of a little bit of grease will hold them in there pretty good, as long as I don't jiggle the hatch too badly when I'm putting it on. But again, we'll look at that later. So the tricky part is making sure that we get all the holes at the same depth. Now you can use a stop on a drill bit. I've used stop collars before, but the problem with stop collars I've found is they can slip, and if they slip, well, it's too late. The hole's too deep and there's nothing I can do about it other than drill another hole. So after screwing around, digging around in my plumbing and stuff, I came up with this plastic tubing, and the 1/4 inch drill bit fits inside of this 3/8 plastic tubing, and then I'll just cut the tubing off to the exact length I need so that it will not drill the hole any deeper than 1/8 inch, and they'll all be consistent. And this is a little loose on the drill bit, so you know how it is. Wrap a little duct tape around it, slide it on there, and it'll be fine. And because this comes all the way down, I push the drill bit as far into the chuck as it'll go, and this will ride on the chuck up here. I think I'll get pretty good consistency on the depth. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a shop and a drill press, you can always set the drill press up with a stop on that. You're going to get really accurate results. But this is crude boat work. I'm doing this out in the field, so this is how I'm going to go with this. I think it'll work out pretty well. All right, I'm going to set that down there, and hopefully in the right place. Not quite enough on that, so hopefully that's not too much. Looks reasonably good. Yeah, our bearing fits in there, and I'd say that's a winner. That should be just fine. Alright, on the underside of the hatch here, a little bit of quick math. I'm going to put 12 ball bearings on each side. So I divided the distance by 12 and came up with a spacing of roughly 2.5 inches. So I put a little tape down there and I've marked each one. So now when I come back with the drill, I'll get an even spacing on there. It's not real critical, but it's nice to have things evenly spaced out. Okay, well, let's try one hole to start. Let's try a random one in the middle. That way, if things get screwed up, I can move it over. Okay. My little test ball bearing. And I think that'll fit in there nicely. Could be a little bit deeper, maybe. Maybe I'll adjust that. Just a hair deeper. Now I can't get it out. Alright, let's try that again. Yeah, that's better. Come down here to the last one and make sure that still fits. And yeah, we seem a little deeper down at this end, so watch that. Maybe I'm pushing too hard on that thing. Watch that heat build up, because that started melting that tube a little bit there, and I think I was getting a little deep over here, so I think that's heat from the drill bit. Alright, time to go install. Alright, first thing we're going to do is put a little grease in each hole. Alright, so yes, we're using Super Lube, nice general purpose lube. Now I've got my little bag of bearings. And stick one bearing in each hole. These things really will get away from you. One left over. Okay. Let's take a look at what that looks like. We get to try to put this thing in. Moment of truth. Yeah. Let's hope this works. There's the line up. Well, I will say that's a lot better than it was. I'm actually kind of glad it doesn't go too smooth, because I was afraid it would just be like the wham and slam open. Alright, well, that's worked out well. Now on to the next project.